Well, it's another Monday, and we are going to have Money Monday. So, welcome back. Come on in. I have my notes here. Tonight, we're talking about estate planning, which I feel is very, very important. Hey, Dark Skin 86, welcome to Money Mondays. We're going to let a few more people join, and then we'll get started, and we'll be ready to go. Okay? So, Candy is here. Hi, Candy. Welcome to Money Monday. I'm not home, so my background is different, and I don't have my AirPods. I don't have any of that, but we're going to keep on rolling. Listen, we move forward, so let's go. Hey, Sharita, welcome to Money Monday. Let's give everybody another minute or so, and then we'll start at 9:02. Yeah, so welcome. Hopefully, you guys are having a fantastic week. Mondays. I actually don't dislike Mondays, but today was a busy Monday. But I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we have another opportunity to talk about something that's important to our community, the Black community, and then other communities as well. You know, this is something that you can make small tweaks on, and it's so important, but it's going to make a monumental difference in your life, in your quality of life, and then in the structure of your family after you leave. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. So we're going to talk about it tonight. Got some great tips. Grab your pen and paper. You have another 30 seconds or so before 9:02 hits, and then we will get started. Okay? Well, maybe you don't have 30 seconds. Maybe you only have 10. But let's go ahead and get started. So most people, they know their birthday. They know their spouse's birthday. They know their kid's birthday. They know their anniversary. They know, the year they graduated. But the one date that we don't know, nobody knows, is the date that we die, right? And so I feel like a lot of people, we do not plan for this day whatsoever in any shape, form, or fashion. Sometimes we do to an extent, but for the most part, as a collective, we don't. And so it's very important that we talk about estate planning, that we get past the uncomfortableness and the morbidness of talking about estate planning and talk about what we want and what our needs are and what we're looking forward to, so that our loved ones, they have a concrete plan when we leave here, right? So let's talk about what estate planning is. Estate planning is simply where your assets or your wealth goes after you die. Who gets what? It can also be how your final arrangements are handled. It can also be what happens if you get sick and maybe you need somebody to step in on your behalf and make decisions. All of that encompasses estate planning. And years ago, it was something that was only utilized by the wealthy, just because, a lot of people under a certain income level or wealth level, they didn't have a lot of assets to pass on. But as we've seen, it's very important for people at all income levels, at all wealth levels, across all levels to have an estate plan and be very clear on what it is that they want. Now, I don't know about you all, but weddings and funerals bring out the crazy. You can have the most same person that you've ever met, but as soon as it's time for a wedding and funeral, they just lose their minds. And so that's another reason why estate planning is so important, is because it takes some of that stress, some of that gray area out of the equation. It's black and white, right? There's no gray area. There's no, I don't know, or mama would have wanted this, or daddy wanted this, or big mama, she said blah, 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 blah. It's none of that. It's all crystal clear to everybody, okay? So what you really have to do when you're talking about your estate plan is talk about your plan. Like, what is your plan? So let's get into it. The first thing that you will typically hear about are wills and trusts, right? So your will just says who gets what. Your trust, if you have a trust, it says who the guardians are. You can also put that in your will, who the guardians of your children are, or if you have pets, what's going to happen to those loved ones. It's going to name an executor, who's going to be in charge of what, who's going to do what, who's responsible for X, Y, and Z. All of that goes into your will or your trust, right? And it's really a way to shelter your wealth. And I'll tell you about this at the end, so that if something does happen to you unexpectedly, like you get in an accident or you just die, like people just die every day, healthy people, they just drop dead. It just takes the the gray area out, right? So it just tells who gets what, right? Who gets Mama Silver, who gets Nana's jewelry, who gets, you know, blah, 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 who gets the bow, who gets the house, who gets the car. And your will of trust, that's going to name all of those things out crystal clear so that everybody is on the same page. There are no questions. There are no issues. There's no bickering going back and forth. All of that is handled in your will of your trust, okay? Also, when you're developing your estate plan, what you also want to have is a power of attorney, a POA. And your POA can be one of two things or both, right? You want somebody that's going to be a financial POA, so that's going to be over your finances. So, you know, they know what's going on with your money. They know what's going on with your bank accounts. They know what's going on with your life insurance, so on and so forth. And then you want somebody that's going to be a health power of attorney. So let's say, for example, you leave one day and get hit by a bus and you have a health POA. That health power of attorney is going to say, okay, this is what, you know, blah, blah said to me. This is what he or she wanted. This is the expectation. They have no resuscitation, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, your health or your financial POA is going to make those decisions for you so that you have someone advocating and speaking on your behalf. Then you want to look at your beneficiaries, right? So a lot of people, I think, we're under the assumption that when we die, the accounts go to like our children, right? Now, if you're married, that's true. Like if you pass away or something happens to you or your spouse, typically it goes to the husband or the wife. But let's say that you're not married. Let's say you just have kids and the kids think they can just go to your bank account and get $20,000 out. No, that's not how it works. People can have all this money in their bank accounts. You can have all this money in your retirement accounts, your 401k. You can have $1 million in your 401k. But if you die and you don't have a beneficiary listed, that's going to go to probate, right? So now your family has to wait months or even years to access your money that you wanted to go to them anyway because you did not have a beneficiary listed. So you need to make sure that all of your accounts have a beneficiary listed, even if it's your spouse, even if it's whoever, right? So that if something happens to you unexpectedly, they can access your assets. Okay, now we see this a lot with people, especially in the Black community. Somebody dies and now we have to have GoFundMes. We selling t-shirts. We having fish fries because they didn't have life insurance. And I get it. Life insurance is very expensive, but you need life insurance, right? And I'm not talking about $1 million. Ideally, that would be good. I'm not talking about $100,000. Ideally, that would be good. But if you have enough life insurance, let's say $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, that's going to help with your arrangements. That's going to be a benefit to your family so that they're not grieving you and then trying to figure out how they're going to bury you, right? We're not 3 weeks after your death and we're still trying to come up with the money in order to bury our loved ones. So really look into life insurance. Hey, Pi, welcome to Money Mondays. I know life insurance is expensive. They have this life insurance called a limited pay policy. It's basically permanent or whole life insurance, which means that you pay on it for 10, 15, 20 years. And then after you're done paying on it, that's it. You still have that insurance for the rest of your life. And you have it until you're like 100 and something, I want to say, depending on the policy, depending on the situation that you sign up for. That particular life insurance is a little more expensive, but it's worth it because you're not paying on it forever. So think about our grandparents, how, you know, the man came to the house every week and he collected his $25 and went away. And then your grandmother dies and she missed the last year of her life and nobody knew she had this term life insurance and she paid on it for 50 years and she doesn't have life insurance. So think about it in that mindset. A caveat to life insurance is the younger you are, the cheaper it is. So like, for example, I got a limited pay policy when I was in my 20s. And I want to say it was like $100, maybe it was like $80 a month. It was something very low. But I got it again after I got married when I was in my 30s. And it was almost $200 for, I think, 15 or 20 years a month. So get it early. If you have teenage children, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, bite the bullet, get them a limited pay policy. You know, if something happens to them in their time, that policy is going to pay out, but you get it for your 18, your 20, your 25-year-old. And then by the time they're 40 years old, they have at least $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 of life insurance that they're going to have for the rest of their life. So that's an asset to the family as well. Okay, so the next thing that you want to consider when you're estate planning is planning for your funeral expenses. Okay, that's another thing that goes into life insurance. So how are you going to pay for this funeral, right? Put that into your estate plan. Have a game plan so that when you pass away, hey Tash, welcome to Money Mondays. When you pass away, your family is not scrambling to figure out how we're going to bury you, right? And then lastly, you need an exit strategy, and this is for business owners. So if you own a business, you absolutely need an exit strategy of what's going to happen to your business if something happens to you, or if you are still operating the business, something happens. You're going to have a plan, an exit strategy of what happens to the business. Does it go to someone else? Does your family get bought out by your partners? What happens with your exit strategy? Okay, so there are some things that you want to consider when you are estate planning. The first thing is no secrets. You want to be very transparent with your family, right? Because you don't want any animosity once you're gone. You don't want any fighting when you're gone. You don't want the family structure to break down when you're gone. And estate planning is going to help you with that. You need to tell anybody where the documents are. So I'm talking about your insurance documents, your bank accounts, your credit cards, your mortgage documents, any loans you have, your social security cards, your birth certificate, your marriage or divorce certificates, if you have a prenup, if you own property, if you have titles, if you have deeds, that all needs to be in one place, and people need to know where those documents are, so if something happens to you, they can move forward. They also need to know about your digital assets, right? And I think we know that, but we don't kind of know that, right? So I'm talking about the logins for your financial accounts, where you have accounts, right? A lot of states have unclaimed property. And it's because people pass away and nobody knew that grandma had this account at this financial institution, and she died in 2014, and it had $15,000 in there and nobody knew. So make sure you are leaving your digital assets with your family, your social media accounts, your email, your cell phone password. Our cell phones have everything in them. Somebody needs that information. You need to have that somewhere. So if something happens to you, they can access your contacts. They can access your doctor information. If you get sick and you don't know, they can see what medications you're on, all of that. They need that information. And then lastly, you want to give someone, or have at least with your documents, your end of life instructions. So what type of service do you want, right? We see this a lot with families. Well, mama wanted to be buried. No, she wanted to be cremated. No, she wanted to be buried. And they're going back and forth. Have the end of life instructions so everybody knows, everybody is clear, everybody has a clue. Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? What do you want, right? If something happens to you and you are incapacitated and you can't advocate for yourself, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to see happen? And then, I can't read what this says, sorry. But basically, end of life instructions, okay? Now, you all have some homework. Usually in Money Mondays, I always give you a challenge, or I give you something to do. The first thing that I want you to focus on this week is reviewing, adding, or updating your beneficiaries. We need to make sure that when we leave here, our assets are passed to the right people. I would hate for somebody to get divorced and they didn't update their life insurance. I'm sorry, it's not funny. They didn't update their life insurance, and their ex-wife or their ex-husband that they absolutely hate is still listed as a beneficiary, and they're going to get that money instead of somebody that still loved them, okay? So update your beneficiaries. Look into life insurance. If you don't buy it today or you don't get it today, at least have an idea of the type of insurance you want. Get that ball rolling. A lot of times you can buy term life insurance for a couple bucks a month. And if you can afford $10 or $20 or however many dollars a month, get it, right? It's better to have 5 years worth of term life insurance or 10 years worth of term life insurance than to have zero. So get what you can afford. Inventory your assets. So really figure out what your assets are, where they're located, and all of that information for your family. Talk to your family about what you want, what your expectations are. It doesn't have to be an hour-long conversation. It could be something as simple as an email that seems very impersonal, maybe a conversation first and then an email so that they have it in writing. But your family absolutely needs to know what's going on. And then lastly, get your docs in order. So get all of your documents in one place, including your digital asset information, so that if something happens, like people do not expect anything to happen to them, and stuff happens to people every single day, your family will be prepared. before I let you go, I want to leave you with this. Chadwick Boseman. We all know Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther, one of the greatest superheroes there ever was. He died a couple years ago, right? And we know that before he died, he got married, okay? Unfortunately, when he died from a long illness, he did not have a will, okay? And when he died, his estate was worth $3.8 million, okay? So when you die and you have $3.8 million worth of assets, and no will, it goes to probate, okay? So when everything was said and done, it took over a year for the probate to settle his affairs. His parents got $1.25 million. His wife got $1.25 million. And the lawyers and the court fees for the probate got 1.3. So they got more money than his family that loved him, that took care of him, that cherished him, that misses him, than the family. So we really need to get our business in order now, while we're healthy, while we're top of mind, while we have the opportunity, so that when we pass, people are not ripping our loved ones off because we didn't handle our business. Okay? So those are your takeaways. Thank you for attending Money Mondays. I hope you enjoyed tonight's session about estate planning. Get your estate in order. If I missed anything, you can also Google estate planning checklist, and the checklist will come up. There are so many resources to make it easy for you, to make it free for you. There are so many ideas of things that you can do. There is really no excuse not for you to have a plan for your estate on what you're going to do. Okay? So you guys have a great week. Thank you, Tash. Thanks for joining. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thanks, Candy. Thanks, Sharita. Have a great week, and I will see you next Monday. Bye.